So it's gotten to a point where if I see that A24 logo on any movie, I am bound to find time to watch it, since they have yet to severely let me down. So my expectations were pretty high going into watching The Lighthouse, and I've gotta say, it was interesting. Surprisingly, this movie runs almost 2 hours, but while watching it, it felt like I had been sitting there for around 3 to 4 hours, which is kind of a bad thing, but when the movie ended, I still felt like the movie had left its mark. This movie stars only 2 main characters, and that would be our dear friend Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe.
I'll find some chark in ye, lad. Now's the time for gab and chatter. Let's be enjoying it. Come a fortnight, the brace of us will be wanting to be ever silent as the...
There's technically a third character, but she isn't in the movie for much. So this movie is about a guy going to work as a lighthouse keeper, where he ends up meeting Willem Dafoe, who's been there for probably way too long. Dafoe kind of acts as the boss by giving Robert a bunch of tasks that seem grueling and just overall super not fun. And then when the day comes to an end, they eat dinner and start getting hella drunk. And that's about the first hour and 20 minutes. There are some stories that Dafoe tells that all sort of sound like Myths of the Sea, for example how they shouldn't kill a seagull because it's bad luck. We do end up seeing how well that goes. Dafoe also never lets Robert go up to the actual lighthouse, which starts to drive Robert pretty crazy, seeing as how that is what he signed up for in the first place. Along the way, some very bizarre events occur and a lot of yelling scenes between Robert and Dafoe that get very uncomfortable after they've been at it for a good 10 minutes.
You think you're so goddamn high and mighty just because you're a goddamn lighthouse keeper? Well, you ain't a captain no ship, and you never was. You ain't no general. You ain't no copper. You ain't the president, and you ain't my father.
This is really hard to write because, like the title says, there's not much to this movie on a surface level. If someone puts this movie in and didn't pay too much attention, they wouldn't be able to even summarize what happened once the movie was over. Because of the ambiguity, it led to all sorts of theories and speculations as to what the hidden meaning behind the movie actually came down to. There were theories that the 2 main characters would get super drunk and start to have sex with each other, which, when the scene of Robert yelling at Dafoe about how his lobster sucks comes on, it kinda makes you think a little twice about what he was implying. As the movie goes on, it drops little hints about what could have happened in these characters' past, but it never fully defines them, and answers any questions the viewer may be having. Some theories state that the myths Dafoe were speaking about were actually true, and Robert killing the bird and banging the siren actually damned them on the island. But honestly, I think the idea that this movie was able to construct itself in a way where almost every person has a different takeaway after watching it is really impressive. To get a movie like that, you have to leave a lot out of the actual plot so that the viewer can insert their own ideas, but you also have to make sure the audience isn't left bored with how little information they are actually getting, which heavily adds a stress level to the 2 main actors, considering they are really the only parts of the movie in charge of grabbing and keeping the attention. The dialogue between Robert and Dafoe aren't even exposition, it's just a lot of them rambling about how they hate one another, then how they love one another, and it just gets very strange, which I think at its core is what saves this movie.
You're fond of me lobster, ain't you?
Drunken in a Virginia fence.
I seen it. You're fond of me lobster. Say it.
Because of how absurd and bizarre the conversations between the 2 are, it is what's keeping the audience's attention because they just don't know what they're watching and what they're listening to, and it is keeping them interested. So this movie at a surface level is just about 2 guys losing their mind together. Or technically one guy who has already lost his mind and is trying to turn the other guy insane as well. Or they are both already insane and the movie is just them doing insane things. The movie is both about nothing and about everything. The theory that I came up with was that Robert and Dafoe were the same person, and one was just in the other's imagination. Robert could be imagining his older self, and that would be Dafoe, or it could very easily be the other way around. I think what keeps this movie alive is how much people can talk about it and theorize together about it. I watched the movie and once it was over, spent a good 2 hours diving into it with my friends. I would definitely recommend seeing it with other people because you might go insane if you watch it alone.